What's
We
up,
don't want
wrestling
it to
fans?
end.
I want no, I know.
No, don't let it be over.
Right. Surely somebody else can do a run-in somewhere, right?
I mean, there's got to be a Attitude Era wrestler that has not yet made an appearance tonight.
Oh, maybe a D'Lo Brown run-in. Can we get that?
Ken Shamrock is not internally bleeding yet on TV.
Where is Kurt Angle?
What a story! What a weekend! What a ride!
What a ride! My goodness. Last night was hot. It was really great. Actually, I think it might have been cold in that arena. But tonight, my
Yeah.
goodness. My goodness.
Yeah, actually, maybe that's the place to start. By the way, we're the Two Bros Wrestling Show. We're so excited. We didn't even
So
introduce who we
excited.
are, why we're here. Our second show of the weekend, night 2 of WrestleMania 40 in the books. Did Cody finish this story? Well, you could tell by the tear in Doug's eye.
Shut up. I've not been crying. You've been crying. Interwebs. Not me. You guys have been.
We told the stories last night. Let's tell the stories tonight, Doug. What do you say? Let's get going.
Let's get going, man.
So to me, night 1 was fantastic. I think
Absolutely.
maybe night 1 might have even had a few of the higher points, maybe overall some higher points on night 1, just match wise. But for me, night 2 did not have. It was better paced. There wasn't that lull that night 1 had. Would you agree with that? Did you feel that way?
Yes, absolutely. Night 2 was just so much better. Not that night 1 was bad at all. I don't.
Night 1 set the table.
That out. Yeah, absolutely it did. Absolutely, it set the. But
David obviously saw night 1's episode. So apparently my cat Paul also plays by bloodline rules, which means no rules. And therefore the door is closed tonight, so I do not get attacked while on air.
Well, my cats may still hit me with a crossbody at some point tonight, but right now I think they're both asleep. So
they all cats do bloodline rules, I'm pretty sure.
Ain't that the truth?
Doug, tonight we start out once again with a family member center stage, except this one was a little more unexpected. And I know that maybe wouldn't have been the case at most any other time in WWE history. But aside from the Hall of Fame, where spouses are kind of expected, Stephanie has been absent from the company that she's had such a lifetime involvement in ever since her old man managed to wiggle his way back into WWE that first time. Tonight, the intro that Triple H gave last night belonged to Stephanie McMahon Helmsley and
Levesque.
Doug, I don't know what more to say about what Stephanie said other than if you could basically say, I am ticked off if my dad and Ding Dong, the old man is gone. I mean, it was right between every word that she said.
Absolutely. I mean, as soon as she finished, I was texting you going, here's what I think about this, which I'm not going to repeat my text on air, because we're trying to keep it PG, but it's one of Rock's favorite words. So,
I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like this might open the door for Stephanie to come back into the fold on a corporate side? Most every talent from Paul Heyman and other front office people down to the female division and performers all the way to NXT in general had nothing but high praise for Stephanie when she actually took over for Vince. The board even entrusted her to take the reins. That's how much respect she has.
It was a Stephanie take the wheel situation. And I think the only reason she is no longer with the company, because, it's not that she's not been on TV or has like a backstage or, back office role or is, hanging out in a C-suite somewhere. Stephanie resigned and, left the company altogether, when Vince wormed his way back in. So I am allowed to say Vince, aren't I?
Yeah, I think we can. We're allowed to.
We're allowed to.
And I do think that tonight what you saw was just the thawing of that relationship and the possible opening of a door for, if you want to come back and be involved, I think she'd be an asset to her husband. I think they work well together as a team. I think it would be good for the company to get her back on board.
I'm gonna say I was happy to see her at the Hall of Fame, and even happier to see her come out tonight.
Yeah.
It's a new era.
It is a new era, as they kept saying all weekend long.
Yep,
As
Paul
if you
started that branding on Friday night, and they just ran with it. And yeah, I am drinking Prime, so I've got to stay hydrated after such an awesome show.
Let's start with that first match, Doug. A match that got the crowd off hot. We had the WWE Championship match, the World Championship match, with Seth Rollins defending against Drew McIntyre. Drew with the bagpipe entrance. Seth with, I don't know if he topped outfit on night one, but it was pretty darn close.
You know, what pushed it over was like the whole like Mardi Gras kind of vibe. I'm not even sure what kind of vibe that was with all those people. It was oh gosh, what was the guy from NXT that would have like the conga line going?
Yeah. Oh, it was
Adam
just
Rose?
a big old party.
Is it Adam Rose? Yeah, I mean, it was just like a big. All the rosebuds were out there tonight.
And then if the entrances wasn't enough to clue you in on, okay, it's a big deal night two, the crowd immediately got a shot of adrenaline straight out of the gate. Bell hits, Claymore kick. It looked like that might be it. I mean, it legit looked like that might be it. And the crowd was instantly in the palm of these two men's hands.
These guys, man, I mean, just bell rings, Claymore fires off, connects, and it's on. You know, and it just got better and better from there.
The knee once again became a center of a story. I think that you saw a bit of a split crowd at first, but that was until until like Drew started healing on Punk, and as soon as that happened, which was great heel work by Drew to get the fans back completely on the side of Seth, to stop. You don't want to be cheered if you're really trying to lean into being a heel, and Drew really leans well into being a heel.
He does, but after the outcome, I think the crowd shifted again. There were so many.
There was a lot of shifting.
There's some very masterful shifts going on in the story these guys were telling. Eventually Drew, after many, many, many near falls, Drew does come out on top.
And a few of those really felt believable near falls too.
Yes.
Like that next to last Claymore, I'm like, that's it. And then when it wasn't, I mean, I was shocked. Of course, that last Claymore was the one that finished him off. You said how great these two guys did, though, Doug. Before we get to the post match, like it was Claymore, it was Stomp, it was just finisher after finisher. It felt like an epic match. I don't know if you realized it or not. They only went 10 minutes. That was a 10-minute bell-to-bell contest. It felt like so much more because of the pace in which they did it in.
They packed so much in to that 10 minutes then, because I did not realize the length of the match. I was joking with my wife and my son beforehand because my wife was like, okay, now who's this? I was like, that's the guy who's going to walk out of here champion in about 10 minutes. Because I expected them to lean heavily into the whole thing from the night before where Seth is beat down, he's injured, and they did lean into that.
They did.
It wasn't necessarily, and it's part of that story, but it wasn't a crutch for this to, just get in and get out and move on very quickly with the night. Not at all. The story these guys told was, like you said, finisher, Claymore, curb stomp, pedigree.
But that wasn't the finish of the story. And David, I'm sorry you missed this one, because this ends up being one of the, not just matches of the night, but stories of the night. But David Poole, I give you credit. You called this one. So you might have missed it, but you called it in advance as to what would happen, because that's what happened. He called it that Drew would walk away with the title, but that Damian Priest would enact his Money in the Bank cash in, which he did, and was successful in that cash in. And of course, it's hubris that topples him, because if he had he
Mm-hmm.
not been out there taunting CM Punk, which by the way he did masterfully, getting in Punk's
Indeed,
face,
he did.
get a shot of this. I want it for my social
Put it
media and
on the
all that,
wall. Yes.
just perfect work. But it did cost him, it cost him pretty dearly. Damian Priest with like a 5-second cash in, only the second cash in WrestleMania history, believe it or not, with the famous Seth Rollins cash
That's
in being
yeah.
the other one.
Uh,
Um,
so I thought it was interesting how the crowd did shift to Drew. I was just waiting for a "You deserve it" chant at one point after
yeah,
he's in the ring, and the acknowledgement that not to borrow a phrase for the night, I guess the acknowledgement that Rollins gives him on the walk out, was almost like a nod, like, "Hey, it's yours now. Run with it. You finally got to win it in front of people instead of an empty stadium." Only to then quickly have the characters, hubris get the best of him. Punk, obviously not as injured as we thought he was.
obviously Punk is probably ready to go. So yeah, where does this go? Does Drew immediately start looking at a rematch, or does he move on to a program with Punk, and that leaves Damian Priest off to do something new and fresh? We'll have to
Yeah, I
wait and
think
see.
yeah, I think the new and fresh would be great for Judgment Day, and Punk
Hey,
and McIntyre
you got
definitely have some unfinished business.
Judgment Day looking pretty strong right now. We got
Yes.
the women's champ and the men's champ in the same faction again.
Hmm.
David Poole asked an interesting question: do we like CM Punk again?
No. No, we don't. Well,
No.
this bro does. No, this bro can now separate the art from the artist, though. I will say that. But yeah, no, Punk is a self-absorbed jerk and made of glass.
And also incredibly talented. So it isn't
Exactly.
it is a tough thing to balance. No, we don't like him, but when he gets on the microphone and he's actually committed to something, and he's not, sabotaging from the
and
inside, he's very effective in what he
and
does.
he
Tonight,
has
he was very effective in what he
he had a boss tonight, I do believe. To
did.
no
One that
matter
was
what
an
he
actual boss.
when it was an actual boss, yeah, and I think he used to be called a booker, but now he's the chief content officer. But hey, whatever, it works.
We will get more into that, I'm sure, in our upcoming shows. Moving along, Doug, to the next contest, we have the Philly Street fight with the Street Profits, and Bobby Lashley
Profits.
against the Final Testament. Bubba Ray as your guest ref, which was a nice added touch for the
Very
Philly
nice.
crowd. Montez getting a little hyped up, almost too excited, almost left the ringside area.
I think he ended up like the third row. Just
Man,
catapults himself out.
dial back the athleticism, dude. A lot of adrenaline going
Oh.
there. I love the Bubba Ray spot with the glasses bit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is definitely your come down match. There wasn't the same stakes that were in the ladder match from night one. However, the second match placement and the spot fest good time come down match, this match basically served the exact same role on night two that the ladder match did on night one. The spot
Yeah.
fest to make the fans happy, but not as consequential. It was so similar that it even came down to the ending being flubbed up by a equipment malfunction, just like on night one when the
Yes.
table broke before
Yeah.
that it needed to.
Yeah. The gimmick
Fortunately, we
table.
keep a bunch of fortunately, we keep a bunch of tables around, so they were
Right.
able to recover on that one pretty well. Doug, I don't know what you thought about this one. This was the match that I thought was kind of like the whatever match
Yes.
going into it. It
Like
actually
most.
ended up being more fun than maybe I was just in such a good giddy mood after that beginning. Um,
You know
I was more forgiving to this one.
the beginning really did set the stage for I think the entire night. But this match I think flowed effortlessly. It just flowed effortlessly into this match, which was a really fun experience. You know,
It was.
I wasn't expecting a lot out of this, and I got a lot more than I thought I'd get out of it. And Bubba Ray was a great touch. Especially with the Dudley's throwbacks. They're in Philly. It
Yeah.
just all worked the way it should work.
And it worked the way it should work, as did this next contest, in my opinion. We have AJ versus LA.
That's
AJ,
exactly the way I wrote it in my notes. AJVLA.
it's much easier, that
It
shorthand.
is.
AJ Styles introducing some new music. LA Knight with his first WrestleMania. Let's take that in, if you would. Like, this is a TNA guy for years.
Mhm.
Both these guys were TNA guys for
Yes.
years.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the big stories of the weekend. If you look across this landscape, this whole idea of tribalism, if we can just squash that whole, like, this isn't a real company, this is a real company nonsense, not to get ahead of ourselves with that,
Right.
this idiotic stuff that CM Punk said. But I mean, you have, in main event night one, a guy who made himself in AEW and on the Indies and in NWA, teaming with a guy who made his name first in Ring of Honor. Here you got two TNA originals basically going at it. Like, Austin Theory's coming out of Evolve. I mean, if just your WrestleMania card isn't a proof that there is real life and real vibrant professional wrestling scene around the world. Gunther coming out of Progress. I mean, most of these guys, a lot of these men and women came out of developmental. Here's two guys that had a match tonight in their 40s. AJ's a made man, been in WWE for a while.
Right.
LA Knight is 41 years old. LA Knight was pretty much let go after being told he was a manager, after having success in the NWA, after having success in TNA, because Vince McMahon thought he was too old.
Right.
He gets his first Mania match tonight and a win. Doug, the question of this one was going to be, and no offense against LA Knight, who is an amazing character, but even at 45, I think AJ is, like, would an LA Knight actually be able to keep up offensively with an AJ Styles, one of the all-time greats? And he did.
He did, absolutely. This started hot, almost like that first match. These guys, just went at it, just boom, let's go, let's get it on. And they came across, they were telling a story of two guys who legit just hate each other because they just went right at it.
First note I have is they started with the kind of emotion that I actually thought was missing from the Uso match the night before. That whole, like, they really should feel like they hate each other, but that didn't come across last night. These two men brought that to the table. It felt
absolutely.
Like that.
AJ came in there like a man who was enraged because a dude had invaded his private space and came to his home, which is exactly what happened, and was reacting the way that he should react, and they just go from there.
And I do think that either it's the adrenaline, it's a thumbs up.
Yep.
I don't know if it was the adrenaline of being at WrestleMania for the first time, working with AJ Styles, combination of all the above, but LA Knight brought his A game, pulled out some things I hadn't seen from him before. That slingshot DDT from the rope was new. I didn't see that in his repertoire.
That's in my notes. Yeah, slingshot and that avalanche.
Oh my gosh. Avalanche German, that was absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, it just takes 1 inch being off on that, and it's disaster for everyone involved. And of course, it went perfectly. Nice back and forth there, at the end, and the right winner. We both called this one, but we called it like we would book it, and we would book it in that LA Knight needs this more. AJ is a all-timer, Hall of Famer. LA Knight needs that momentum going forward against, who knows, challenging for a world title now from Damian Priest. I mean, where all can he go here? We have so many possibilities of new matchups starting with this new season that starts tomorrow night. This told the story perfectly that needed to be told, and that is LA getting a significant win over a legend.
Yes, absolutely.
Doug, after this, we have the feel-good moment of the weekend where you bring out the Hall of Famers, and it gave Paul a chance to actually come out last and be a headliner as opposed to the actual Hall of Fame where you have to come out first to make sure that no one
No
leaves.
one leaves. Yeah, let's keep the Philly crowd happy. But yeah, I love that, Paul getting to come out, that ECW music. It just gives me the goose pimples.
Gives him the goose pimples. Doug, you know what else gives you the goose pimples?
Logan Paul.
There we go. There we go. You know where I'm going with this.
I knew where you were going.
Set him up, he knocks him down. U.S. title match, Logan Paul defending against Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. Paul with the product placement to the extreme entrance of the night. The big Prime truck, the Prime bottle that, later on gets involved.
And I'm gonna say the big Prime truck, that is the best Prime flavor. That red, white, and blue, that bomb pop flavor. It tastes just like a bomb pop. I promise you, it does. It's awesome.
Do you have a hydration station over there to your left?
Actually, there is a hydration station in the house. Both me and my son are really big Prime fans. So
two bros sponsored by Prime Energy.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it for us. We got to get those endorsements.
I loved the simple but still effective Kevin Owens entrance where you get a reverse look at what happened on night one with Sammy meeting him at Gorilla, holding the Intercontinental title, saying, "Your turn."
Only for them to me, that telegraphed a little bit too much that KO was not going to win anything.
KO was not going to win anything. We get a very predictable match in some ways, especially at the start. You get the 2-on-1 where the despicable heel is double teamed for a pretty good long time there by Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. But then you also get the predictable, like, well, of course they're going to turn on each other, which still was nicely done. Just because it was predictable doesn't mean it wasn't well done or fun. I think that one of my favorite parts of this match was when the crowd turned on Prime by chanting Gatorade.
Gatorade, and then later started just a water chant.
Stay hydrated, folks.
Exactly. Stay hydrated, whether it's Gatorade, water, or Prime.
And yes, that is Doug trying to get us get himself an endorsement deal.
Trying to get Logan on our show so we can get a bounce in views.
I mean, we're not Logan Paul haters here. I mean, yes, he's a despicable character. He's supposed to be. He does that well because he's genuinely rather unlikable. He's also genuinely athletic for a social media star. He's not just a social media star, as is evidenced by that whole senton into that splash combination.
That was amazing.
That looked great.
I've said it before. Celebrities have no business being as good as he is, or Bad Bunny. I think he definitely tops Bad Bunny. But I don't know if we can call him a celebrity at this point. I even have in my notes here, Logan wins. I like it. I want to see more Paul. I want to see Paul on TV every week. Let's see him, straddle a fence here.
U.S. champion. So
yeah. I mean, he's retaining, so let's see him on TV. We don't need a whole bunch of champions just showing up, at major events. We don't need another Logan Reigns at the mid card level.
Logan Reigns. Oh, there was a nice recovery there by KO when he did go for that brain buster, that top rope brain buster, and something didn't go quite right. It wasn't going to end up in a brain buster. Somebody was going to land the wrong way. He turned it into a pretty effective power slam. Almost looked like he intended to do it, which was, again, a nice recovery. But there at the end, Doug, we get the heel using the brass knuckles, gets that believable near fall. The Prime bottle gets himself beat up a little bit. But then, just as predicted, or as this bro definitely said, KO and Orton are going to get in each other's way.
Yeah,
cancel each other out. That's how the heels wins.
That's how the heels win. But I do have a little bit of a problem with this match, and it's just a minor complaint. But I kind of saw this weaving its way throughout the night. There was a lot of that AEW. The rules kind of sort of matter. We're going to be super slow with count outs. Rock wasn't out there telling people not to count, but people were very slow with their counts, or started their counts about 10 minutes after they should have started the 1, 2, 3, 4 to 10 to get people back in the ring. and the ref is visit. Logan Paul made no effort unless this was a brass knucks legal match that I missed that stipulation.
it's a triple threat. So triple threats have that stupid rule where there are no rules.
Oh, well, there we go then. There we go. Because I was like, why is it that this is so blatant? And even Randy even hands the brass knuckles to the ref. Here,
Here, you take these. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to punt this guy now. But
I never have liked that, but it is a long-standing thing that there are no rules in a triple threat, which makes no sense. Why you can't have rules just because you have three individuals in the ring?
no, well,
One of those dumb wrestling rules.
I'll amend my note now because I do have in here. What are the rules? There are none. Apparently, the entire night was bloodline rules to some
bloodline
degree.
rules. I did like that finishing sequence just because a heel like Logan Paul should win opportunistically.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what he did. Where he goes from here, I would not hate that idea. I think that
yes, love that.
I mean, Ricochet and he have a little bit of history in thanks to that viral Royal Rumble moment. Let's play that out on a long form feud. I would be perfectly fine with that.
Absolutely, I'm all for that long form storytelling.
Great segue, Doug. Let's talk this next match.
Speaking of long storm, I said that's not right.
Long storm. That was last night.
Exactly.
The WWE Women's Championship match with Io Sky taking on fan favorites. I mean, just you don't need to make your apologies, Bayley. You are very obviously forgiven. Right. Man, Bayley she had the Phoenix Rising entrance. Her first one-on-one WrestleMania match, which is crazy at this stage of her career. That is just crazy to me. She's a 3-time women's champion. I think they said 6 times at Mania. Never had a one-on-one. The crowd gave her a great reaction from the start.
Yes, they did. They were loving some Bayley. They wanted them some Bayley. Loved it. Love to see a Bayley to Belly. I don't think I've really seen a good Bayley to Belly in so long.
What we did see, and not just in this match, but it seemed to be a theme of the weekend, is knee work. Yes. Wrestlers with their messed up ACLs were definitely targeted. If you've ever had a knee injury in your life, your opponent was picking you apart at the knee this whole entire weekend.
I thought Bayley had legitimately, it's the prime and the vibe of the WrestleMania that's got me all whacked up. But I thought she had really hurt herself when she came out of the ring and is limping around. And then as Io starts immediately working that leg, and I'm like, well, look at that. Look at that. You got me.
Zara and I were, my wife and I were watching this one, and we both were like questioning, like either she's selling the heck out of that knee or she's legitimately struggling to get through this match. Either way, the emotions being sold were completely being bought into by the crowd. I love that there was this hard post spot that really just made it sound like, okay, that knee's got to be in tatters at this point. Then there was the Io Sky doing her signature moonsault to the outside was great. That sunset flip into the turnbuckle spot that Bayley did really looked like it could have legitimately knocked a person out. They built this one to a frenzy. It started out like, that they were pacing themselves for that long form match, and they had the crowd rocking by the end with just the slightest thing they did because they were Bayley just struggling to climb to the top rope brings the crowd to their feet. That's when you're doing the little things that were pulling them in. Rose Plant, new champ. We called it, but I'm glad they didn't try to swerve us just for the sake of swerving us. Io Sky was a great champ. The Damage Control storyline can continue in some other way. Damage Control will be fine. Bayley needed this win. Bayley hasn't been a champion in 3 years, they said, which is, again, just surprising.
That is crazy. Well, just to jump back to an earlier match too, speaking of crazy, I can't believe Paul Ellering had never been in a WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania. Yeah.
Yes. That's just crazy. But this also Bailey is crazy. And I've got to shout out that counter to the one rose plant where Io just flips out of.
Yes,
It's just beautiful.
there were some great false finishes in this one too. Some reversals and some back and forths that just add a little bit more drama and tension to this one. I thought they told a great story. This was again on a night full of feel good moments. This was a legit moment, one that will stand out
Yes.
and doesn't get overshadowed by anything that happens in this next match we're getting ready to talk about. Doug,
you know,
are
I,
you wearing your American Nightmare shirt? Are you
I
wearing your
couldn't
American?
find it. I could not find it. I was going to wear it.
Oh,
I'm wearing about.
American Alpha, American Alpha.
It's American Alpha. A little shout out to Chad Gable, and Jason
I knew
Jordan.
you'd come around. I knew you'd come around to Cody here because I
I
think we all were in on this story, right?
I did. Yeah, I did definitely come around to Cody. And I was legit looking for my American Nightmare shirt. It's an AEW shirt, but I was legit looking for it earlier. And in my vast array of wrestling tees, it is MIA right now, and I can't figure out why.
I thought that maybe Tony had you burn that one and the Punk one together. Maybe. No.
Now the punk one has been taken care of, as well as a Marty Skrull that have been permanently taken out of rotation. But I don't know where my American Nightmare shirt is. Anyway, I thought the packages for your pre-match here were pretty interesting because there was a lot of AEW acknowledgement there, and not just AEW
Sure was.
acknowledgement, but I saw at least three other EVPs, pictures of three other EVPs.
Yeah.
We got to see the pictures of Cody with the Jacksons, pictures with Jericho, and arguably the best wrestler in the world, Kenny Omega. Get well soon, Kenny. I was just kind of shocked that we got to see that. There's such an acknowledgement in this new era of
Yeah.
WWE of the world outside of this WWE bubble.
There's sort of that whole what do we have to fear?
Yeah, really.
So if you're number two and you're desperately like name dropping, it sounds like you're name dropping. If you're number one and you don't have to do it and you just acknowledge it, it kind of doesn't, not only it does it not hurt you, it goes to show that you are not sweating anybody else and acknowledging that there's a broader world of professional wrestling out there. We're still number one and we're going to be fine.
Exactly. And really, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's professional wrestling. We should love it all and get rid of this ridiculous tribalism. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's one of the things my wife asked at one point. Like, she was asking with bloodline rules, like, wait a minute, Cody has a bloodline. And, anybody? And I'm like, well, his brother, but not going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's
Not going to happen. We did get a return from a former AEW employee, and that is a former executive with the company. We got the Cody entrance first with the Homelander meets Skeletor, true American Nightmare going there. Like, what the heck? But Brandy Rhodes was by his side. It was so good to see Brandy.
It was so good to see Brandy, but where was Pharaoh? Where was Pharaoh?
when he bent over for Brandy to take his mask off, did you for a second think he was like,
oh, good boy, Pharaoh?
Yeah. I thought it was getting a pat on the head. I was looking for Pharaoh too. We didn't get that, but we did get a really cool entrance. I liked it. I liked that Brandy was back by his side.
Absolutely.
I thought that the Roman is obviously a generational champion and one of the all-timers at this point himself. I thought that the simple but effective orchestral entrance befitted someone of his stature too. I love the WrestleMania gears and entrances that the men and women come up with this time of year. All weekend long, the men and women of WWE kind of knocked that one out of the park for the most part. Much different reaction on night 2 to Cody Rhodes than on night 1. I do think that goes to show, though, Doug, that right from the intros with Samantha Irving there doing her great dramatic work that she does.
Goodness. Yes.
That lady's the best. She's the best, and we don't give her enough credit. I think that, it's not just like you go out there in the old days and you read an index card of the wrestler's hometown and wait. That lady is full body, with signature enunciations for certain wrestlers. She gives it her all. She adds that drama big time. But right from the moment she mentioned Cody Rhodes, the reaction was an overwhelming positive, where on night one, it was a mix to downright hostile at times. The X factor there, Doug, the only thing I can figure is they don't like Roman. They love The Rock, and they love The Rock despite his heel status. They love The Rock despite Cody Rhodes. They didn't like The Rock inserting himself and possibly interrupting Cody's story with Roman. They wanted to see Cody beat Roman. They want to see Rock do whatever it is The Rock is going to do.
Yeah.
I think we definitely saw that tonight.
Such a hot crowd. The crowd was hot all night, but rolling into the main event. And again, just like last night, there was this just vibe about things where it's like had this big fight feel. And it should, because these are the main events last night and tonight. These main events should be big. They should be big deals. And they really felt that way just all around.
And this isn't like a couple of months leading into a pay-per-view like big thing. This is 2 years worth of storytelling culminating. And that bell rings, the crowd gets to their feet. It's been a long weekend. Most of these folks have seen more than just WWE shows. They've been to the NXT shows. They've been to the Ring of Honor shows. They've been to the indie shows. They've been to WWE World. They've been to all the cons that are in town. It's oftentimes in Mania's past, there's been some good work that doesn't get the reactions it deserves because it's midnight or whatever, and the crowd is just tired. Tonight, I'm like, I hope that they can bring that energy up, and they did a good job of not letting it wane during the night. So I think they kind of kept the crowd at a certain level. But at the end of the long weekend, that bell rang, and it's as if before the two men even touched, the entire crowd knew that this is what we've been waiting a long time on, and just instantly like rise to their feet, and the level of noise goes up. And I'm immediately like drawn into what's happening here. It was just beautiful from the opening moments. Slow build, obviously. You want to go a little long. You milk it. You milk that reaction. Great, heel work that we had, putting the table back underneath the ring.
Nope.
Deprive Philly of those tables. It's the land of hardcore. You don't give them tables. Not sure though. The ones I did think it was a little funny. The announcers at one point are like, Cody desperately needs to get to the rope in order to break. I think they said no. If Roman gets that rope to break, there's no break because it's bloodline rules. And I'm like, how do you know what bloodline rules are? It's whatever the bloodline said it was going to be. I'm sure Roman wants to break if you.
Roman gets rope breaks. Cody doesn't. I'm pretty sure that would have been bloodline rules.
That little quibble aside, they might as well just called it another Philly street fight or a no DQ match. They never made that abundantly clear, but it became a big storyline selling point that what is good for the goose also was good for the gander, because Cody right away went into pulling out tables and realizing that I need to start first because it's about to all come down on me. And that's, pretty much the way that it did play out. There was an amazing strength spot there shown by Roman on the counter to that disaster kick where he gets Cody up into that power slam. Beautiful catch and a throw up into the air there. I think there might be some looser language rules under Triple H. Either that or the censor guys had the night off, because there were F-bombs. Pat McAfee's dropping the S word.
I think I wonder if like after like 10 o'clock it's okay. Or
I'm wondering, you're leaving Fox, you're staying on USA, which of course it's still basic cable, but you're going to the CW and Netflix. So maybe you are loosening things up with blood and language a bit. You don't have to get as extreme as you maybe once were, but they're definitely, and I think to the betterment of the product, a more adult direction without the childish humor that Vince McMahon insisted on. You definitely see that play out, and I do think it's part of what has made the build to Mania so much more exciting and so much more realistic feeling, is that it felt like you were watching a show meant for people of all ages and not aimed primarily at kids at times.
Yes. But yeah.
I'm fine for a little bit of language slipping in here and there, to, as real men who hate each other would be doing.
Exactly. They're not going to be Smurf this and Smurf that, you know.
That's right. Roman with the crossroads. Obviously, that's a
Was
very WrestleMania WWE main event style thing of we start trading each other's finishers. Of course, Cody returns the favor later on with a spear. I do think that the best copyright infringement, probably not an infringement considering it probably is passed down by generation, but come on, man, that bionic elbow with the juking and jiving there. Did you not get the
yeah,
feels with that one? Old
absolutely.
school.
Absolutely, man. It's just damn it, Cody. Damn it.
Jimmy, of course, Bloodline rules. We had to wait
Sure.
and see when the Bloodline would show up. Jimmy was the first Bloodline member on the scene. And I have to say his timing on that was great too. Middle of the cross
Absolutely.
attempt
But
with the
at that point, you can get your little pen out and start checking the boxes. Okay, Jimmy's run in. Okay, Solo's going to run in. Eventually, The Rock will be the last one in. Something will happen there. However, on my scorecard, I didn't have all the other run-ins at all.
But the thing about it is, and maybe we should have seen this coming because no, I
Should have.
didn't either. Bloodline rules means the bloodline runs wild. But if you're having a no DQ match and you're
Right.
Cody Rhodes and you have
Mhm.
24 hours to prepare for, okay, I'm going to get teamed on here. What do you do
Mhm.
except rally the troops? All the people who've been wronged by the bloodline or who
Right.
have reasons to not like the bloodline. You get your friends together and the J one obviously made sense. The Usos are in
Absolutely.
a so that one you could maybe see coming on. All right, Jimmy's neutralized, but there's way more bloodline than just the two Usos that just cancel each other out. Sure
Yep.
enough, Solo's up next.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And how about Solo barking orders? What's up with that? I'm kind of digging that. I was like,
a
finish
more
him.
vocal Solo. Um, Solo, of course, also comes in the middle of all the and a series of crossroads that became a theme too. Is how many crossroads is it going to take, and can he complete multiple crossroads before a
Uh-huh.
bloodline member comes? But then we did see him tonight, and that is
We did
something
indeed.
that at one point had been rumored. Will he be involved?
Right?
Maybe, and then by the end of the night, I had forgotten completely about the fact that there was a chance John Cena might show up this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Here he comes. Couldn't have picked a better moment for that when he came.
And it looks like almost perfect purposeful storytelling because it was Sokoa that took out Cena what, how many months ago? And we haven't seen John since, but here he comes to right that wrong.
But it's John who last we saw was taken out by Solo. So there
Right.
was still long term
Yes,
storytelling, and it made perfect sense as to why he would want to get revenge on Solo while
absolutely.
also tackling Roman
And
as
there we
well.
go.
Absolutely. And of
Yeah,
course, who has long standing beef with John Cena?
that's right. The final boss.
Here he comes. Then the Shields music hits, and I'm like, is Moxley there? Like, is
Dude,
Moxley
I
there?
I was thinking the same thing because there's been this whole thing going around about like Mox like
Yeah.
shaving his head and everything now and a new look and all this and I'm like, no, that's not a thing. Just like MJF's not showing up. I didn't buy into
Yeah,
that.
that
But
was
then
rumored too.
I legit was like, wait, is Rollins coming out with Mox? What am I about to see here?
Yeah. And they really teased that as a possibility by the crowd, like looking in the crowd for the
Uh-huh.
Shield as they used to do, and then there's poor Seth just in his um, Shield gear, getting his tail handed to him for the third time this weekend. Basically,
It's
all Seth
so
Rollins did was take a beating all weekend.
this is so true, and a thumbs up to Seth Rollins for his performances this weekend.
And then maybe the biggest surprise, even though he's obviously always around on Mania weekends doing his dead man shows and things like that, but you don't expect a lot of physicality out of The Undertaker any longer. And yet the gong still gets those reactions, right?
Absolutely, man. You hear that gong and you're like, are you kidding me? Are you smurfing kidding me? Come on.
David, I have to say about the only person that wasn't out there was Stone Cold, and I was expecting him. By the time Taker came out, and again, Taker at his age and Rock at Rock's a much bigger dude and a thicker dude than he used to be. I don't think he could take that stunner the way that he did back in the day, the flopping head over his head. Now he's like the big guy who one of them wasn't so mobile. So no, he didn't get a ton of height on that choke slam.
No,
I
he did
still
not.
pop for it.
But
I still
yeah,
pop for it. It
just
was definitely greatest hits time. It was like nostalgia. Like
really
here's
what
here's the Attitude Era in 5 minutes.
yeah, it really was. But it's everything that WrestleMania should be, where you have like the bits of nostalgia throughout the night and then it just had everything in this main event though.
And this is 40. This is 40. This is
Right.
the first one under Triple H. This is a new era they're talking about. So the biggest stars of the last wrestling boom
Yeah.
make an appearance in this match, as they repeatedly reminded us throughout the weekend that a new era was beginning, and we were seeing it play out in the very end of this main event.
Mm-hmm.
The ring clears of all the extras, reset, crossroads. I think I think you're right, David. Roman took 8 billion this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
but he took just enough that
Yep.
the 1200 whatever, however, it's 3.5 4 year near 4 year reign
Mm-hmm.
comes to an end. Emotion starts flowing from everyone. Samantha
Everyone.
Irving, who we just gave her flowers a few minutes ago,
I
she
know.
starts with the
Voice
and
cracking. Yeah.
voice
Struggling.
cracking. The ring fills with wrestlers and legends and family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Cody being again one of the few white meat baby faces that can get away with the goody goody guy act. Um, Looking to the heavens like you knew that he would,
Mm-hmm.
going around thanking cameramen and shaking the hands of announcers and Michael Cole legitimately
Michael Cole
crying.
crying. And Michael Cole and Cody exchanging "I love you." So, come on, man.
Gets on the microphone, which is something you don't usually see at the end of a WrestleMania.
Mm,
Usually it's just you save that for Raw or whatever. You don't address the crowd.
right.
You let the fireworks go off. Cody gets the mic. He's bringing down Bruce Pritchard and Triple H. I would love to have heard what it was. I know it had to be about his father and how proud he'd be of
Uh-huh.
him and all that kind of good stuff. But Triple H whispering for so long into Cody's ear and the emotion on Cody's face as they were having this conversation. You want to know what that is, obviously.
Absolutely. We'll
Um,
save that for like the backstage extras on the well, I would say the network, but Peacock.
Unbelievable night. Doug, I don't know what you thought of the main event, but yes, we saw it coming. It was the right time. It was the right moment
Mhm.
to make this shift, especially as you're going into what they're considering a new era. Roman needs some time off. It is well deserved time off. He has
Absolutely.
done an incredible job. The third or fourth longest, I think they said fourth longest title reign in WWE
Yes,
history
because you've
at this
got
point.
San Martino, Bob Backlund, and Hogan, and
And
then
Hogan,
Reigns. Yeah.
and all of those were 70s and 80s, a much different
Mhm.
time. No one
Much.
holds titles like this anymore. It was very effective to make this title mean even more, make this moment for Cody mean even more than had he just managed to win on any other given night.
Mhm.
Um, Unreal. So, what do you say, Doug?
Oh,
Can we hit a? We want to hit a big finish.
let's hit a big finish. My iPad went to sleep. Hold on, let me wake it back up for my notes. Okay, here we go.
I don't know what goof would give a no matches 5 stars because I think that there's a couple that flirt with it. Maybe not. I don't know. We're going to get into that because I do want to talk, Doug. Not just let's do tonight, and then let's talk the whole weekend as far as match goes. Um, your botch of the night, if there was anything that didn't sit well with you.
So the only thing I can really call out as a botch is a legit botch, and you mentioned it early on, which was like the gimmick table that was, ready to go before the spot was early on in the Philly street fight, where
Yeah.
somebody tosses carrying cross on a table and it immediately breaks right where it's gimmick to break. But I'm not really gonna. There was nothing really offensive to me other than like what that legit botch, which is the
So I
equipment, and
had
it's going to
one.
happen.
I had one that I was going to call out last night, and then chose to instead go with the poor explanation of the ladder match rules until the very end. But something that I didn't care for, not one that I also didn't care for in night two. But again, I know we're in a different era, so this is going to happen as well. But the product placement thing, I know it's in every sport, but whether it's the Prime logo on the mat
I don't know
or
what you're talking about.
on the turnbuckles, or every match being sponsored by someone else with the signage around the ring and the apron. I know NASCAR's long had it on drivers' gear and the cars, and other sports are starting to add a lot more of that. But I don't know. It's something about my wrestling. I don't want to see ads everywhere I look.
I get that, but I think back, Lesnar's always had, not always, but since he came back from MMA, he's had like the Jimmy Johns and other like things on his, he was like the walking billboard for a while, and I think that's just the times we live in now, especially since we have a MMA company merging with a wrestling company and creating this behemoth of combat sports.
I know. I don't have to like it.
I know. I'm with you though. I get it, man. I get it, but
But
it's
it's
just
minor. It's minor. I get it. In the grand scheme of things, I know why they do it. The businessman side of me would say, sure, take that money. But yeah, I don't care for it. I'm sure I'll get used to it as it moves forward. I'm sure it is a permanent fixture now. And
oh
I
yeah.
will also point out something else that is something I heard Eric Bischoff talk about, and he noticed that when Cody Rhodes was attacked by The Rock on Raw a few weeks ago, that nightmare bus and the wrap on it, and then all weekend long you see the vodka sponsorship.
Uh-huh.
Wrestling, because of its affiliation with being kids oriented programming, never took money from the alcohol companies. There's obviously a lot of money in the alcohol industry, and if they're accepting
Mhm.
advertising from vodka companies and beer companies, and it just opens up a whole new revenue stream that is extremely profitable. So again, business side, I understand why they're doing it.
And that could be a shift in the product too that we're noticing here, where it takes on,
That adult shift.
yeah,
Yep. Doug, performer of the
man.
night.
This one is rough because I really want to shout out Samantha Irving because I don't, she was a superstar all weekend, but
She was, man.
I really don't think you can get away with this WrestleMania without saying Cody. Cody was, at least I can't. Cody was the man this weekend. Becky Lynch wasn't. Cody was though, and I
He
no longer
was.
begrudgingly say that. I am a. I'm not gonna Cody crybaby, but I was a little upset that I could not find my Cody American Nightmare shirt tonight.
I can't blame you on that one at all. Cody definitely finished this story the way that I'm sure that he has always wanted to dream that moment up. It went about as perfect as you could anticipate. I am going with my performer of the night and maybe the performer of the whole weekend, Triple H.
you know,
There's so much to be said
yeah.
for the story that Cody was allowed to tell. I think that a different era, a very stubborn Vince McMahon would have dug in his heels and gone
Hmm.
exactly with what the original plan was and not pivot back to
Oh
what the
yeah,
fans wanted. We
absolutely.
saw way too many examples of Vince McMahon do that through the years of not giving the fans what they wanted while simultaneously always saying that they gave the fans what they want.
Absolutely. We
Too
listen
many
to the fans.
examples to the contrary.
Yeah.
Triple H listened to the fans and he allowed that story to be told. But from the Hall of Fame on Friday night, where Paul Heyman almost embarrassed Triple H by going on so long about the leadership that he is providing and the structure that was sorely
Hmm.
needed, to the commentators talking about the new era, to making such a big deal, I think both for the fans' sake as well as honestly the sake of sponsors and anyone who else who may be either doing business with WWE, planning to do business with WWE, or otherwise coming for WWE. They wanted to make extremely clear this is the first WrestleMania that Triple H has completely booked himself, meaning this is the first WrestleMania that we haven't had Vince McMahon in our way.
Mhm.
Vince McMahon is really gone. No, really, he has no day-to-day dealings with the business. This is something
Mhm.
said on conference calls a lot by Endeavor executives,
Yep.
TKO executives. So I think that for a first weekend of full ownership of Triple H, they made a big deal about it, and he rewarded fans' faith. The
He
creative
did.
direction that he has put in place, the creative direction that is ushered in at NXT under Shawn Michaels, which has been, a revelation. They have it really does feel like it could be a new era of wrestling being really cool, really popular again. And you can't discount, I mean, yes, there's a bit of myth making involved. That's what promoters do.
Mhm.
But there's also more than just a kernel of truth to the fact that a lot of what we enjoyed this weekend can be directly related to the work of Triple H.
Absolutely. I'm an old school Paul Levesque guy myself, so and yeah, TY, you're absolutely right. That's basically what I texted Kevin at the beginning of the show when Stephanie came out.
Yeah, it definitely was, and not that it's not deserved. So
So true.
and your daughter and your son-in-law are a part of this cheerleading crowd that are glad the man's gone, and the results on air speak for themselves. I think.
Indeed, they do.
Match of the night, Doug.
Match of the night, that first match was hot. The second match had no business being as good as it was. You know, everything tonight was so damn good, Kevin.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, if I'm talking about tonight, at WrestleMania we can't even consider it in a bubble because there's been a 2+ year story going on here. You know, Roman Reigns has played his part perfectly for what 1,360 some days or whatever it is. You know, I'm gonna go with this is really hard for me match of the night because there was so much good stuff tonight, man.
It was good stuff, man.
But the the Cody Reigns bloodline rules. We knew how it was going to come down with shenanigans. We both called it that Cody does finish his story, but even despite the I don't want to call it predictability because I don't really care about spoilers. I'm more about the storytelling that goes along with getting you to the end. If I know the end going in, that's okay. I want to see how the story was told to get you there. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Roman Reigns Cody match of the night.
And me too. Just the culmination of the story, the fact that it's been told for as long as it has been, even if it was a finish that a lot of folks thought would happen, there's been many, many times in the last 4 years almost where we also were fairly sure that it was time for the reign to end, and it didn't end. So kudos to both men for telling a predictable story in a way that still had you totally invested. Is it the
Mm-hmm.
technical masterpiece of the night? No,
No.
probably not. But is it the story and the match that people will talk about for years? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
My match of the
Absolutely.
night. A
Yeah.
little trickier for me though, Doug. If let's look at the overall weekend.
Okay.
Obviously, a pretty a couple of under delivering matches aside. Again, I don't understand exactly what happened with the J Jimmy match for me, but that aside, the whole weekend was strong. What do you think is the match of the entire weekend?
I have to say Sammy Gunther. Yeah, I don't even think twice about that. My mind, that's it. Sammy Gunther. That was just amazing from start to finish. A great story there too. It was a compact version of Cody's story, really, because Sammy had a story to finish there. They just made a mini series instead of less like this epic, 2 year story arc. But and the wrestling was great. Gunther is a beast. Sammy is the greatest underdog ever. Anyway, I can't believe they ever turned him heel coming out of NXT and up into the main roster. But yeah, Sammy Gunther for me, man.
I'm going to sound like I'm hedging my bets and cheating here a little bit, but I will equivocate by just saying that I put this in like a WrestleMania 3 contest, right?
Okay.
The irresistible
Okay.
force against the immovable object that lives on
There you go.
forever. No one's
Yeah.
going to forget that match. But they also will not forget what happened earlier that night when Randy
I was
and
gonna say,
Steamboat stole the
yeah.
show.
Savage
So
Steamboat, yeah.
as far as history goes, there's just no way. And again, it was a much more athletic match tonight in the main event than what we saw
Oh, yeah.
with Hogan and Andre. I'm not comparing those two from that perspective, other than to say the big story is obviously the match that we ended with tonight. That is the thing that has been so engrossing for so long, and the historic title reign. That is a match of the weekend if you want to look at it from a story perspective. If you want to look at it from a pure star rating system, Gunther, Sammy, they're just, technical and the technical side of professional wrestling, which we also very much love. That was on full display there, and that was a historic title reign that came to an end too at 666 days, which is just perfect as it turned out.
Yes.
But it goes without saying, I think that not only was the match of the weekend, it, unlike tonight's main event, was maybe a bigger shock than most people. I know I called it, but when I started, looking at other predictions, I realized that I was kind of alone in the wilderness on that one. Like, I think most people seem to be thinking that Gunther's reign would continue. So I think it was one of the more legitimately surprising outcomes of the weekend. And that also helped to elevate the match because it made it harder to see coming.
Yep.
However you slice it, another successful WrestleMania. If this is the first of what Triple H has in store for us, and Shawn Michaels pumping out so much talent out of NXT that Triple H is going to have a problem to figure out what to do with them all. It is a great time to be a wrestling fan. Let's not get into those post-Mania blues and doldrums. Let's see if we can keep things going with this whole new era excitement. I believe they can. I believe it's going to be a little different than Mania's past.
I've got a lot of faith in the future. And, Michael Cole said two things tonight near the end of the show. First was, damn it, I love professional wrestling, which was
me too.
He delivered it so dryly, but then, later, or maybe it was Corey Graves. I don't know. All my memories are already melding together of WrestleMania. But one of them said, professional wrestling is back. Yes, it is.
And I think it might have been Cole who also said sometimes professional wrestling can really get you in the heart.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm sitting here like, whopping, like, there's dust in my eye. It was a great ending to a great weekend. It starts anew tomorrow night with what promises to be a very interesting and exciting post-Mania edition of Monday Night Raw. It's sure to be wild. Doug, things, fortunately for us in this beautiful world of professional wrestling, things are going to stay good for us too.
Yes,
I realized in our promo here, scrolling across the bottom of future shows, I still got tonight's show on it. That's how excited I was. I didn't take it down.
It's WrestleMania way. Wow.
But we are definitely not going to come down off this WrestleMania high. It's a really great time to be a wrestling fan for Doug and I, because we are going to go be in person for Dynamite this week. We are going to take our cameras along and film some clips, get you all along for the ride of a sort of a behind the scenes look at Dynamite. And we're going to, on our next show on Sunday night, if you join us at 8:00 live here on our Facebook channel, we are going to take you behind our trip to see AEW Dynamite this week, including a tease. Tony Khan is legit apparently going to show the backstage footage of what happened between CM Punk and Jack Perry at Wembley Stadium in London. Doug, I know we're going to have a lot to say about that if that actually comes to pass, and it seems like it really is going to, unless lawyers get involved.
It sounds like it could very well happen, because at least that is the actual intent. It is reportedly not a bait and switch. It is the actual intent of the AEW team to show, I guess, the CCTV from Wembley that,
backs up their side of the story.
Led to the decision to release CM Punk. So that's going to be really interesting. And, Kevin, we have a bit of a track record when we go to see AEW. in the area,
Yeah.
because every time we show up, something historic seems to happen. We've had, like you pointed out earlier, the first tag team champions, crowned, CM Punk going way off script and calling out Hangman Adam Page, and now we're seeing this one now with maybe more CM Punk nonsense.
We will one other reason we want to document it, and that is going to be our show next Sunday. If you're watching us because it's Mania and you wanted to see what these two bros had to say about Mania, thank you for tuning in. It's your first time. If you're regular viewers, we appreciate that for sure as well. We hope that one way or the other you stick with us post Mania. Join us next Sunday.
Thanks, everybody. If you haven't done it, go watch some wrestling. Come on, it's WrestleMania.
See you next week.
See ya.